Simple as
Like
that.
very inviting.
Exactly.
Mm.
You guys been all right?
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Surviving, bro. You know.
I saw you guys training yesterday at the house on your Instagram, and it's like 110 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
This train don't stop, bro. You know.
I mean, and that's what we're gonna talk about. Is you guys put the pedal down, whether it's work, training, and being a family. Like it just doesn't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to try to keep up with this one.
Oh, really? Yeah. Jinh, the master's degree. I saw the last interview.
Uh-huh.
The master's degree, the new multi-fight deal with UFC. I mean, is it just blowing your mind right now?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I've just kind of been, I'm a person, I need time to just let things marinate.
Mm-hmm.
And so everything's just kind of marinating.
You mean that 10-hour drive home didn't marinate enough? Like, I'm about to fight on the largest platform in the world.
It was a lot of it was stressful. That was the most stressful week of my life by far. Like, it was rough. Just like I said, I need time to like let things marinate. I need time to kind of just accept things, let them, I don't know, just work through them. And there just really wasn't a whole lot of time. It was just one thing right after another. And I usually go in pretty confident fight week just because I know all the preparation that I've done. I know I didn't skip out on anything. I know I gave it 110%. I'm completely confident in myself and all the work that I've done. Whereas, for that, it was like I've literally done like no prep work. So, you know what I mean? There was a lot of anxiety. Like, obviously, it was a great opportunity and I wasn't going to turn it down, but it was still like a really stressful week.
Well, I think for people, and this is, as we're starting our interview, for people who don't know the two of you or who are just getting to know you guys, Doug, I've known you since 2009.
Yeah.
I actually had to look that up.
Since XKO2.
Yeah, you were fighting Greg Grider.
No, the first one, Mike Rodriguez.
Mike Rodriguez was the first one.
Yeah. Yep, that was the first one with XKO for me.
Man, and before the facial hair.
Baby, I don't even think I could grow a beard 11 years ago. These days, I shaved yesterday, but by the end of the week, I've got a freaking beard. So it came on strong.
Man, you guys have been in the sport for 12 years.
Well, I'm with 15 now. 2005. Yeah.
Wow.
That's when I started. Yeah.
And when you talk about shock value, 15 years, 12 years you guys have been together. Is that right?
Yeah.
And Jinh, the funniest thing ever on your last interview was MySpace.
She sent me that message, bro, and I was like, ooh, I have a message.
Man, I mean, you got to think, man, back then, fighting, you both were fighting around that same time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's just a different stable of mentality of fighters then and now. Would you agree or disagree?
I would say that the sport has most definitely grown, and it's a little bit more of what's the best word? I don't want to. Normal's not the right word. Mainstream. It's a little bit more mainstream than what it used to be, for sure.
Because you guys, the two of you, when you were fighting, and for you, Jinh, what you've seen in the last 12 years as far as female fighters, the doors and the opportunities that have opened up, do you feel like you've kind of paved the way traveling around the world and winning this world championship title?
Yeah, definitely in a way. I wasn't like the first wave of pioneers, but I'm still, definitely when I got started, You know, female fights really didn't happen. They were more of kind of a sideshow. Like, we really weren't taken very seriously. You know, most of the gyms that I went to, I was the only female in there. And people didn't really take you seriously. It was tough to just, you know, get the respect. You know, you really had to get in there and grind, and show people that you were there to work, and that you were in there, you know, training hard before, you know, anybody gave you the respect that you deserved.
Well, you definitely, and I think, you know, I've been kind of doing some Instagram stalking on you, Doug. 2019 was an amazing year for you, is what you were talking about. The love of your life, your wife, traveled to Japan and was treated like a rock star. That had to be just an amazing experience when you did fight in Japan. I mean, just the way the crowd, the country embraced you. And Doug, as the coach, you kind of were able to step back and record and document this experience. Jinh, when you had a chance to watch the footage and listen to where Doug kind of set up what was going around you, because I know you were focused on the fight and training. You didn't have a chance to really embellish and look around. What was that like for the two of you going there?
Like you said, for me, it was just work. It was just business. You know, it was a cool experience. And looking back, you know, I can sit and kind of enjoy the experience a little more when I think back on it. But in that moment, like you said, I'm more focused on the task at hand, and I'm not there to have fun. I'm there to work.
My focus was to eat all the Japanese food that I eat in a week's time.
Really? What was your favorite thing to eat?
What's up?
What was your favorite thing to eat?
I ate Kobe beef, and it was the most amazing beef I've ever had in my life. We like 2 days before the weigh-ins, we went to like this fish market that's world renowned, and Jinh, because she was able to still eat. It was that fight was at a higher weight class of what they call the super atom weight. So she was able to. We were able to partake a little bit in the fresh seafood, and we had scallops. We had some sushi, and then we had the Kobe beef as well. And like that moment, going down to that fish. What would it be called?
I guess there's
fish market.
Fish market, but there's like all these little people that have these tiny little grills, like little propane grills. And you just pick what you want, and
they cook it right there for you.
And so it's just super fresh, and it was a cool experience.
Yeah.
So is that what they call a wet market? I think I heard that somewhere. It's just raw meat that's literally out there.
Yes, but it was all just like seafood.
Except for the beef.
Is the distinguished? Does it have to be like alive to be a wet market? Like they kill it right there?
Mm-hmm.
Like all of the seafood was already. I mean, none of it was really alive, was it? I guess it was all caught that morning, and then they put it out on ice, and then you just kind of pick out what you want. I don't know if that's what a distinguished.
As far as term as wet market, we're not sure if that would have been considered one or not.
Okay.
There were no bats. I'll tell you that. There were no bats.
No pangolins.
I'm glad you clarified that. You know, definitely, you know, talking with the two of you, I think everybody's fascination with the two of you is the fact that you guys can hold your marriage and let that just grow and still be the coach, the fighter, work full time, that balance. So for couples that are out there or married couples that are looking for how do they do it? How do I make my marriage work with both of us working full-time careers, or something as extreme as being a fighter and a coach? What advice would you give to married couples to make it work, to balance it all out?
Jinh, I'll let you answer this one first.
A lot of patience. It's still like a process that we're figuring out. Some days we're better at it than others. It is difficult to separate our personal relationship from our working relationship sometimes. It's a very fine line, and sometimes that bleeds over. Like sometimes I'm being coached and I start taking it personal. Or sometimes I'm at home and Doug starts telling me what the hell to do, and I'm like, we're not at the gym anymore. Get out of my face, because I'm a grown woman. So it's definitely been a learning process for both of us. And it's very important that you distinguish between those two roles. You know what I mean?
Right.
At home, you're a husband and wife. At the gym, it's all business, and we're working, and he's a coach, and I'm a fighter. So just keeping those roles separate and delineated, and keeping them, leaving the work at gym and having our home life at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to add on to that, it's always a work in progress, just like with any relationship, marriage, in our circumstance. But as far as making it work, because there's trial and error within it as well. So on the error part, you have to make sure that you're willing to apologize if you were in the wrong. You're willing to realize your mistakes and then fix them. So when those things come back around, that you're able to identify and catch it before something wrong is said, or before before you make it a comfortable situation uncomfortable.
Right.
And just and probably just knowing your spouse. Like Doug by now knows that, like, once I get angry,
right,
like, stop poking me. Like, honestly, if you just leave me alone for a while, like, once I'm angry, I'm not going to budge an inch, and I'm not going to be willing to compromise. Like, I'm going to be a rock, and I'm not moving.
Right.
So he knows that just give me some time, let me cool off, and then, in a couple hours or maybe the next morning, we can come back together and discuss and work things out. But also, just you got to know your spouse pretty well.
And it's so interesting that you said that. The key word is communication, right?
Yes.
Know your spouse. And with reality shows popping up all over the place about 30-day fiance that they never met, you already know.
Right.
But luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so awesome, Doug, that I learned from watching your last interview that you have developed the Fray fighting system. And I was Fry, sorry. I know that was one thing that people have asked me to say was Fray or Fry. So this is for everybody out there. It's Fry. The fighting system, the blends. So what is the blends that you put your fighters through?
It's mixed martial arts. It's just my own term for mixed martial arts. It's being able to seamlessly switch from one discipline to the next, but at the same time, those being blended together so that you can't differentiate between one position or move and another. Like a blend. A blend is like the perfect analogy for what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish, and make it as seamless as possible within those transitions.
So past the years, you've traveled all over. I know that you were in.
Oh, hold on, Antonio. You got the.
Oh,
say it again. There we go. You're back. Start your question over again, brother.
Yeah, my mom was calling. Mom loves.
Oh yeah. Tell her I said hello.
So, Mom, I'm gonna get back to you later. You were in Manhattan, or it was Madison Square Garden with Alice Yager.
Yes.
You've trained so many fighters.
Yes.
You trained Jin. So over the years, have you found out what fighters can adapt and embrace the blends, and which ones need a little bit more of a push?
Oh, of course. Like, that's, as a coach, that's my job to be able to identify something like that within an individual. But if we're looking at, let's say, a very athletic person versus someone who's not really athletic, kind of a non-athletic person, but has the drive to be a fighter, certain positions, certain moves have to be tailored for their body types, for how they respond, where they're fast twitch or slow twitch. Like, there's a lot of variables that I have to take into consideration, but ultimately I can tailor the training for each individual so that no matter what your own personal style is, I can add to it and I can make a competent fighter.
And so when I sent you that message to the both of you about mentoring and coaching is one and the same. It's about your characteristic. It's about, getting the best out of your fighter. You guys are driving 10, and I'm going back to the UFC with you, Jin, getting that phone call, you felt like you're going to bring it no matter what happens. But in those situations, facing that opponent, did you feel like the blends really brought the best out of you? Or did you feel like with a short notice, you're just going to take what you can get from the blends and apply it to your best ability?
Yeah, more so like that. Like I already knew that I wasn't in the best cardiovascular shape. And, you know, wrestling is a tough sport. The grappling tends to tax people a little more cardiovascularly. You know, I was just going to do the best I could with what I had, knowing that I wasn't probably in the best cardiovascular shape. You know, usually I go into fight week knowing that if I have to wrestle for 25 minutes, I can wrestle for 25 minutes. Whereas this time I was like, ugh, I'll give it what I can. You know, just you know, I've trained so much over the past 12 years. At this point, there's really not a whole lot we can do in 5 days. You know, I just have to rely on the work that I put in these past 12 years and what's already in my muscle memory.
And that's really awesome, is that you have that experience. I know there's a lot of fighters that are coming to the UFC that, you know, they're looking like they're a promising fighter, but you know, the knowledge that you have between the two of you, that you can dissect what's going on round to round and apply and make those adjustments. It's just amazing that you're a married couple, that you can coach and you can work together. But then also you have this amazing cook in Doug.
That's right. She knows it.
So what's the celebration meal, whether it's a defeat or a victory? What's the celebration meal after a successful camp and after a fight?
You know, we almost always go to Torchy's Tacos afterwards.
Oh wow!
And then we go to Days for a Pizookie. It's like, and give ourselves diabetes.
You know, it's hard to imagine you two with diabetes, because you both, I think, combined have 5% body fat, which is crazy. So, you know, the main reason why I wanted to have this interview with you was, for one, for people to know what it is like to be able to be so successful, not only in the fight game, but in marriage and in your professional career. Also, to talk about travel, because I think that's something that people get a chance to do, to kind of tap into with you two. But traveling, there's no Uber, there's no hotel. I mean, it's just the two of you out there in the elements. I mean, how awesome is that? And how frightening and how energizing is that, just to say, look, we're going to no man's land?
You know, for me, I'm not extremely extroverted. I tend to be kind of an introverted person. So social media is hard for me. So like all of the media stuff, you know, with all the fighting is a little, it doesn't come natural. You know what I mean? Like I can do it, and then afterward I feel a little bit tired. Like it took effort for me to interact and do those things. And so, you know, typically we try to take a trip right after a fight camp, and that's like how I like just unplug and recharge my batteries. I'm like, okay, I don't want to have to post what I'm eating today, what I'm working out. Like I don't want to have to do any of that. I just want to put my phone away, and I just want to get out in nature. I want to smell fresh air. I want to see the stars at night. You know, I want to sleep on the ground. And like I said, that's how I recharge my batteries after all that.
Well, you know, preparing for this, Doug and I have been in contact quite a bit leading up to this conversation of travel. It all started at a weigh-in. You guys showed up at XKO, and I said, Doug, you guys just went to an amazing trip. How did that happen? And his eyes got so big, and he said, man, Jinh plans the best trips, you know? And he gave you awesome kudos. And so we wanted to talk about 3 trips that you guys have taken. I know we're gonna have time for much more down the road, I hope. Doug, Bolivia, Ireland, and Scotland, is that right?
You're close. We did Iceland, Scotland, and Peru.
Okay. So, you know, pick whichever one of those 3, and let's talk about those and kind of just be our tour guide from when you guys get on a plane, and how do you know where you're going?
So let's start with Scotland, because that's the first country that I got to experience outside of the United States.
Okay.
So that was 2011, and we got flights, and it was first half was in Scotland, second half was in Ireland. And when we were in Scotland, we were there for a solid week, and we met some amazing people. A band called The Side, a Scottish band that had 4 members, and then a road dog, and we became really good friends with them in the Highlands in a little bar outside of Kylacken, Scotland. And I don't remember the name of the bar specifically, but from that night, I remember the bar that we had started at called Saucy Mary's. And Saucy Mary's kind of died down. And so we had seen another little pub like right across the street, walked in there, and The Side is playing. And there was probably, you know, a group of like 20 people in total. There wasn't just a whole lot of people in the bar, but nobody was like rocking with these guys, and they were jamming. And so I was like, fuck it, I just get on the dance floor and I'm starting to just like, I'm jamming with these guys. And it ended up being like, we talked with them, we had beers with them, and they had a caravan located very near to where we were staying for the night. And so we went and drank with them until the sun came up and told stories, and they jammed out for us. And then we went about the trip that we were on with the group that we were on the very next morning. But we stayed in contact with those guys and followed their careers, and you know, they're still doing very well for themselves. And in fact, we went back to Scotland, and we loved it so much, we decided that we were going to go get married in Scotland. So we went and had an outdoor wedding in the Highlands in 2012. And when we arrived into Glasgow, our friend George Campbell, who we had met the previous year, he met us with some good scotch, and we had a bottle in our room of champagne waiting on us as congratulations. Oh man! And then we ended up jamming with him, and then we make it down to Inverness, and that's where we find our friends Graham MacDonald, who's the roadie for The Side, and he's a homie, man. But Graham, we ended up. And Winnie as well, and Ryan, and we ended up, having another night just like we had in 2011, the night before we got married with our guys from The Side. And so
was that like, a little nerve-wracking, or did that help brush off the nerves?
We had something else going on that was more nerve-wracking, and that was her wedding dress. She had it shipped over instead of carrying it on the plane or checking it in. She had it shipped over, and so on the wedding day, it still had not arrived at our Airbnb.
Get out of here.
So it's time. We're kind of freaking out a little bit. I had rented a tux, and so I threw that in my check-in, and so I was good. So we get a notification from their mail service at the Airbnb we're staying at, and it said that the box was ready, but we had to pay an import VAT tax and able to acquire the box that we shipped to ourselves. Okay. I guess what they do is if you are in the UK and you purchase something from abroad, it gets double taxed in a sense. Like their government wants a little bit from it. And so we ended up getting her dress at almost the very last minute of right before we're going to get married, and everything turned out all right. And then whenever we got back home, we ended up riding to their post, and we got reimbursed something like maybe like 60% of the price that we had paid. But it was funny because we were like scrambling, like, okay, what do we do if we can't get your dress? And we had seen stormtrooper costumes. And we're like, well, we'll just fucking rent some stormtrooper costumes and we'll just get married.
Get out of here. What?
But the dress was there and she looked beautiful on our wedding day. But it's things like Scotland is, we're honorary Scots.
It was
right.
Before, right?
Oh yeah, and that's another part of it is 2 days before we got married, we went and climbed the highest mountain in Scotland, in the UK, called Ben Nevis. So we're like, all right, there's a mountain. Jin had already done a little bit of research. We knew it was a couple hours from where we were going to be getting married. So we went and stayed a night there, and we checked in with the rangers at their what do they call them? At their hut or their station. Yeah. And you want to do that before you go on any mountain. You want to make sure that somebody knows that you're on the mountain.
Okay, in case an accident happens.
And at the time, go ahead, Jen, tell me about your Viburn's.
Oh, do you remember those 5-finger shoes that were like popular?
Yes.
I love those. I had like so many pair, and so I wore them everywhere. And so we go to check in just to make sure that there aren't any storms coming in, that sort of thing, that the weather's clear before we head up. And he looks at my shoes and he's like, "You can't go up in those." And I'm like, why not? He goes, you're going to need some hiking shoes. You need some like ankle support. I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm fine.
Right.
And he's like, all right, whatever, you know, you do you. And so we went and, you know, we got to the top and we came back down and checked back out with them to let them know that we were off the mountain safely. And, you know, he was like surprised. He was like, you wore those shoes? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, they were very impressed because I guess the time that it took us to get to the top and turn around and come back down was on pace with what they require for their rangers, their park rangers.
No freaking way.
And his quote was, "Man, they make some tough cookies down in Texas, don't they?" And I was like, "Oh, you know it."
You know, and that's kind of the beauty of these trips are, for one, the people that you encounter, the stories that you can share, and the adventures that you guys have. I mean, the fact that you were on vacation to relax, you could be a mountain. You could have made the qualification to be a mountain on your off season. That's insane. In shoes that are not made for the job at hand.
Yep.
All right. So at some point, somebody's gonna watch this and say, "Look, these superheroes need to reveal themselves."
Our
So
vacations are never relaxing.
What's that?
I said our vacations are never like relaxing. We're always trekking the countryside. We've got to climb a mountain. Like we go do stuff.
Braving the elements. Yeah.
I don't think we've ever had one where we're like, okay, we're just gonna hang out on a beach or we're gonna go to a resort. Like we're never in any place for more than like 1 or 2 days before, you know, heading out somewhere else.
And so that was Scotland, where you got married. And I love the Chuck Taylors, by the way. I love the Chuck.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Married in my Chucks.
You know, it's people pay so much money to have a backdrop or a setting, and it was all natural for you to.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like a free park. I mean, it was just open to whoever. There was a guy like walking his dog while we were having our ceremony.
It was a place called the Fairy Glen. If it couldn't be any more romantic.
Is that the place where you wore the Where's Waldo outfit and you were looking? It was almost like the Shire.
No, so that's actually on the other side of the world. That's New Zealand.
Okay.
And it was a couple of years after our Scotland trip that I had been saying I wanted to do this Where's Waldo theme across the world. And I was like, I kind of look like Waldo, like if I put on glasses and comb my hair over. And so I was like, it's going to be perfect. So a couple of years later, I ended up ordering a Waldo costume, and Where's Waldug made his appearance all over the world for a lot of countries before I ended up retiring him in like 2018.
Yeah. Was that because did Jinh finally just 28-second knock Waldo out, or is that what happened?
You know, it just got to the point where we were doing like a lot of long distance treks and we were trying to like minimize how much gear we were having to carry, because when you're going up a mountain, every extra pound matters.
You have all your food on you, all your water, all your cooking supplies.
And so it just kind of got to the point where it wasn't worth the weight to carry it around.
Ounces matter.
Yeah.
Ounces matter when you're on those long treks.
After 40 miles, those ounces matter.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that? 40 miles?
We did the Tour de Mont Blanc, which is 108, but we didn't get to complete it because we ended up hitting pretty bad weather through the mountain passes. And so we had to skip a couple of days, but I think we ended up doing like 70 miles to the Alps.
Yep.
Really?
We started in France and then crossed over into Italy and then crossed over into Switzerland and then made a loop back into France.
Yeah, that was a really cool adventure.
Okay, my jaw is just disconnected because
it's like we were like, all right, we'll talk about Scotland, Iceland, and Peru, and we're already at like Scotland, New Zealand, and and now we're in the Alps. We can talk about this shit all day, bro.
And that's the thing, and that's what I love to hear, is because I see the pictures, and I'm going to try something here. Just bear with me. Let me see if I can pull this off. This was something I was working on. Hang on, I'm here.
Yep.
Okay, so tell me what that is.
Okay, so that was in Bolivia, and that was our most recent trip. That is actually where we stayed the night. So you see the glacier in the background?
Yes.
That was the glacier. So if we had like a 360 view of where we are right here, to
Right.
the left of where this building is, but much further to the left is the mountain called Pico Austria that we had summited this afternoon. We'd started in the morning, we summited it, and then we made our way to this little hut that we were going to stay in. And so that roof is made of hay and clay and probably manure. And
Oh my God.
and it was just a shell. It's just a shelter off of the mountain, and that's where we were going to stay because we were going to we climbed that glacier the very next morning, which started because of the way glaciers evolve in the sunlight. We had to start climbing that glacier at 1 o'clock in the morning, and and the idea is to try to summit around dawn so that you can start making your way back down off the glacier before the crevasses and seracs begin to evolve and open up, and you're much more.
The sun starts to melt everything, and so it starts to
Okay.
shift. So then it becomes dangerous to be on the glacier. But during the night, it's completely frozen solid. So there's less of a chance of, running into accidents.
So that was our shelter for, about 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
From getting off the mountain, getting some food in us, getting some sleep,
Right.
and then getting back onto the mountain.
Okay, so for us average people that are afraid of certain things in life, the fact that Jinh said, "Oh, it's frozen at 2 in the morning and it's pitch black, and that's the safest part of it," versus when it's melting, I'm like, this just sounds dangerous going up and coming down. I mean,
Yeah, I mean it's
so crazy.
Yeah, so that something like that where we're donning crampons and ice axes, and we've got headlamps and our headgear, and we've got the correct gear, and so
Right.
Jinh and I, and then we have a guide.
Okay, so you're not there by yourself.
No,
No.
when we go on things like that, we
Mhm.
hire a guide, and
Okay.
that's the best way to do it in the most safest manner. But like trekking Tour de Mont Blanc
Mhm.
that we talked about a minute ago, there's no
Yeah.
need for a guide. We were able to map that and do that all on our own. So it just depends on what exactly adventure we are doing specifically. But getting on a glacier in the middle of the night required having somebody with much more experience to help guide us along
Yeah, that's
safely.
with that not being something that we do very regularly.
Mhm.
Obviously we need someone who has, the technical knowledge. Because there were like crevasses that time, so he's checking, and there was fresh snowfall, so he's like, I'm not even sure where these are at. So as he's walking, he's tapping the ice and making sure that it's solid as we traverse it.
Yeah, there was actually
Couple of spots we have to leap over. Like they weren't massive, you know what I mean? Like we
Right.
didn't have to rope across them or put ladders out, but there are areas that he doesn't know how deep they are, and there's holes, so we're roped up and we have to jump over.
So we're having to jump over these cracks in the ice that who knows how deep they are.
So let me just put this out there for people that are watching. You have to jump over in the stark of night with a flashlight on your head. And how cold are we talking? What, like, if you had to describe how cold, because your gear prevents.
Like 5 layers on top, 2 on bottom.
Okay.
So,
And so, I mean, we're talking about air temperature of probably in the 20s.
And I think you guys reached the summit at 17,000 feet.
Yeah, so Pico Austria, the mountain before that was not technical, no glacier, that one was at 17,700 feet or 17,800 feet. The one that we did on the glacier was actually slightly lower in elevation by maybe 600 feet or something like that. I think it was just over 17,000. But we didn't summit it that morning. I think I specifically bit off a little. We were trying to condense as many climbing adventures as we could in the time allotted in Bolivia. And after the hard climb up to Pico Austria, my legs just weren't ready for a glacier climb the very next morning. So I think Jinh probably could have got on and maybe even made the summit.
I think we were only like 200 meters, maybe.
Yeah, we weren't far from the summit, but
Like
the sun was already beginning to come up. My legs were already just completely shot. Like I'm taking 3 steps and my legs are just locking up. And I'm like, okay.
No.
So we're waiting a minute and I'm like, okay, I can go again. But the snow's getting deeper as well. So when you're stepping, your feet are sinking every time. Almost up to your shin. And
so you're talking muscle fatigue, dehydration, exhaustion.
And it's about a 40 to 60 degree incline.
Yep.
So what about the breathing? So I know the air gets thinner because when I go skiing, if I'm close to the summit, 10 feet feels like I just ran a mile, and it's just harder to breathe.
Yeah, so that is something that has to be taken into consideration.
You just kind of, you get into a rhythm. It's like you move a trekking pole, you take a step, you take a breath.
Right.
Trekking pole, step, breath. And you just kind of find a rhythm and you just stick to that rhythm. And it's a turtle's pace by the time
Right.
you get to that altitude. But you just keep pushing, and in your head you're just dying. You're so exhausted, but it's just like, okay, I can do one more step. Okay.
Right.
And now I can do one more step.
Yeah.
And you just keep telling yourself that until you finally make it to the top.
It takes a lot of mental strength to make yourself just continue pushing onward and upward.
Imagine.
So obviously, all the martial arts training, with the mental fortitude that you build, but also the breathing techniques, it transfers into climbing these mountains as well.
So I'm going to try and do one more over here. Let's see if we can get one more and see if you guys can tell me where this is at. Right here. Here we go. Okay.
That
so
is
where are we at here?
Iceland.
That's
That is
Iceland?
Iceland. Yeah, so that is the I'm gonna butcher the name, but Thorsmark is, there we go. That is called Thorsmark, but the pass was called Finnjordelhus. And that was that was the most dangerous day of trekking that Jen and I have done. And this was right after we got through all of the danger. And this is on the way down. We only had about another 2 hours, maybe 3 hours of trekking shortly after this photo. But yeah, that was in Iceland, and what an adventure there. So we had made camp at the base of a waterfall called Skoafoss. And whenever we had gotten to the campsite, we had checked in with the ranger. What do they call themselves over there? With the mountain warden, and we paid for our little spot. And there was nothing about the Finnjordelhus Pass being dangerous or anything like that.
But the weather changes there like so quickly.
Okay.
And we were on the very last,
or what?
raining, snowing, hailing,
Sleet.
wind.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
What?
all of them, yes. When we went on that particular adventure, it was the last weekend that like buses were running out to this part of the highlands of Iceland because the weather is changing, and now these passes are going to be closed because of bad weather. So we make camp, and we wake up, at 5 a.m, and the waterfall, everything is just so amazing. You'll have to go back to my Instagram because I've got some photos of it.
I think I have it. Keep talking. I think I have it.
And yeah, and so we start the trek. And for this particular one, like the first maybe hour and a half, 2 hours, there's something like 28 waterfalls. That was actually that's a different waterfall, but that is Iceland as well.
Okay.
Yep. So on the Finnjordelhus, we go past about 28. It's not like 28 waterfalls, and then we start to get onto the volcano, and it's the volcano that it erupted and caused massive worldwide.
I don't think we're on that one, but you can see it from there.
Mm-hmm.
It was right
the
next
one
to it.
that erupted like in 2010 and shut down the airline for like.
Okay, yes.
Because
I
of all
remember hearing
the,
some of the news, yeah.
yeah, I don't think we were on that specific one, but you can see it from there. But we were going through a pass with twin volcanoes.
That's what it was. So with that comes scree, or like loose dirt, loose sand that's on these it's like a type of volcanic ash and volcanic dirt. So we start climbing that portion of this trek, and we get to another little warden's hut, and the weather's starting to change. Like it's starting to snow, the wind is really starting to pick up, and we get into this hut, and we get some snacks, we get some coffee, we kind of revive ourselves. We know that this next part is going to be tough because now we're going on this glacier, and so the warden didn't give us any type of warning or anything like that, and so we're like, okay, we know we have another probably 7 hours until we reach our next campsite.
Okay.
So we start our trekking, and we get on the glacier, and all of a sudden the wind is constant at about 50 to 60 miles an hour, and the snow is like a blizzard to where our visibility is every bit of like 10 meters in front of us.
Not even that.
And maybe less than that. Like it's not good at all. And
Right.
so it's getting dangerous to where I know that if we stop,
Mhm.
you know, we could get seriously injured and even maybe die.
Well, and like I had a GPS tracker though, and I had preloaded maps of that area. So
Mhm.
I mean, we were prepared. We had a shelter with us. We had our packs were like 40 pounds because we had food, water, shelter, everything is on our backs. So
Right.
I think we would have been okay, but we're like, you know what, let's just push on. We have this GPS tracker. We can't really see the markers from the trail, but we're headed in the right direction. So I know that we're headed towards our campsite.
So it was about 4 hours of trekking across that glacier in those
Mhm.
with that wind and with the snow, and being so much taller, I kept getting blown over, and so like my
Right.
legs were being taken right out from underneath me multiple times, and it's just a very intense situation. And luckily for us, you know, we're
Mhm.
experienced and we were able to push on through it and do it as safely as possible. And then we get to the off that part of the mountain, and we get to that part that you see where it's that green valley called Thorsmore.
Right.
And so it's like, all right, now we can take a selfie after we just got done going through a
Yeah.
really stressful time, a stressful point of this trek. Funny story is, we finish that day and we arrive at our campsite. We check in with the
It was
next
like
wardens.
18 miles later, and I think we were almost,
18.
yeah, 18 miles.
God almighty.
So we get there, and it's funny, we get our tent set up, and they have like a little communal kitchen area where we go and we
Right.
set up boiling water so we can eat.
Mhm.
And there's like signs everywhere saying, notice to hikers, that trail is closed because of, you know, gusts of up to 90 kilometers an hour.
The
And
ones you guys walked through.
That we had
yeah,
just
the
gotten
one that we
off.
just finished.
So the warden slides us that paper, and Jen and I look at us. We tell him, we just came off of that pass.
And the funny thing is that's supposed to be a really popular trek. We saw one other couple on the trail.
And we didn't see them for
Really?
very long at all. Yeah, they
Oh,
were
are
with
they
us
still
at one
living?
time, and then they were
Do you
not
know
with
what
us.
happened to them?
And the whole time I was like, God, this is supposed to be a really popular trek, and there is
Yeah.
nobody on this trail.
Yeah, so when we were told the
Oh,
warden
no.
we had just gotten off the off that pass, his eyes get really big, and he's like, "You guys are lucky to be alive,"
You
because
know,
yeah, just it was tough. That was an adventure, Antonio. That
I
was an
think
adventure for sure.
survival is a key word.
But like I said, you know, we weren't like completely unprepared. We had water, we had food, we had shelter, we had sleeping
Right.
bags, warmth.
And experience.
We had a GPS device.
That's
you
the
know
key
what I mean?
word, experience.
Yes.
Yeah, and you talk about stress. I think that is the next level of stress, not only mentally but physically. You know, all the wind and the rain and the cold and the hiking, and the fact that you two were a team in this. It wasn't like Jen was like, "Well, I've got the GPS and I'll send help for you," or Doug is like, "Well, I've got this and I'll come back
Go
for
on
you."
without me, Jen. Go on without me. I've got snacks.
Yeah. It's like, you can stay warm with that Where's Waldo and I'll be right back for you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so awesome. I don't want to hold too much more of your time. I wanted to save more for another time.
Sure.
Let me see if I have one more picture here that we can show our viewers and we can talk about. Let's see if we have something else we can delve into. Oh, here we go. What in the world is going on here, guys?
Okay, so this is the glacier in Bolivia that we had just previously spoken about.
Right.
So you know the little mountain hut that you were like, what is this structure?
Mhm.
That was what we slept in, and this is the mountain that we had climbed. And so that's at dawn on what is it? What was the name of that mountain? Do you remember?
Tarija?
Pico Tarija. Yep, in Bolivia.
And we started on the other side of that lake.
Yeah, you see that
On the other side.
You
on
see
the-
that
on the-
lake in the background?
Yeah.
So there's two lakes. There's one on the front end and there's one on the back end. We
Okay.
stayed on the back side of the one that's closer to the picture, or like the first lake.
My goodness.
That was a heck of a trek. And
So
and as you
tell
can
me-
tell, it actually
Right.
we had a snowstorm move in those couple of hours that Jen and I caught some sleep. So when we woke up and started this trek, it was in a heavy snowstorm.
Mike, so tell me about some of the gear that you guys are wearing. I see the helmets, the lights, but what's on your feet?
Those are called crampons. So they're
You have plastic boots.
Yep.
For
Uh-huh.
glacier treks, which is actually pretty uncomfortable. Like they're kind of like snowboarding boots. Like they're very just like they're hard shells, and so it's hard to move in them.
Okay.
So that, like I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting to do the entire trek in those. So we walked from that lake in those hard shell boots. So it's super uncomfortable because it's like they're just so rigid. Like it's hard to walk in them. They're like snowboarding boots. I don't know if ski boots are like the same.
Yeah.
Like,
it would be like ski boots.
So
Ski
like
boots are kind of
walking-
the same.
Yeah, to where you
Like,
know
there's
the
no
ankle
flex in them at all.
completely. What's up?
There's no flex in those boots.
Yeah, no.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's so that the crampons will fit on there, and then once you get on the glacier, the crampons, are able to bite into the ice and hold. But we walked over tons of stone and stuff just in those boots, which was super uncomfortable.
Yeah, the first couple of hours to get to the base of the glacier was across that valley. That was just a bunch of volcanic rock and just rocks, a bunch of rocks that was covered in snow.
And so, for anybody that's looking to, go and be adventurous, there's a lot to consider. I mean, really, mentally, you need to be prepared for what you're going to face because you never know what's coming. Like you guys said, going down the valley, you didn't anticipate 50-mile-an-hour winds. You didn't anticipate getting blown off or walking 5 feet and collapsing, not to mention the physical capability and having a guide in some of those situations.
Yeah, I think we just all the gear was probably an extra like 10 or 12 pounds that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this won't be too bad because we're only going up for the day. Like you only have to carry like your snacks, water. And I mean, you really want to carry like maybe close to 2 liters of water, which, that weighs, 5-6 pounds. And so then there was another like one, because I actually had 6 layers on top and then 2 on bottom, plus the plastic boots. So it was it was more weight than what I was expecting because I was like, oh, we're just gonna go up for the day and come back down.
Right. So when
it's never as easy as we think.
Right. Because listening, and I'm really glad that people get a chance to really see people with actual experience going through these elements versus watching it on IMAX, the new movie coming out called Avalanche or whatever the case may be. You go see those movies like that would never happen. They would die in 10 minutes. There's no way that they would, that exposure, they'd be gone. They'd be out of there. Especially with that body type that they have. Oh, there's no way they'd be able to handle that. So, I don't want to keep too much more of your time, guys. So if we can save a little bit more of the trip, I want to talk more about Egypt and I think it was Cyprus that you guys traveled to?
Jordan and Egypt in that trip. Yeah.
In Petra. And
Yeah.
I mean, how awesome was that?
That was
incredible.
amazing. Yes.
Right?
That was amazing.
And
Egypt, though.
Egypt was a shit show, but Petra was awesome.
So we're gonna say that for
yeah, well, let's save that one. Let's save that one, Antonio.
That one's a whole.
Like I said, I can keep going on and on and on, but yeah, let's save Egypt and Jordan for our next go round.
Yeah, we'll do that for part 2. We'll do that.
Yeah,
How's that sound?
Let's do Egypt, Jordan. Let's talk about New Zealand,
Okay.
and then let's throw in how about Australia, since we're on that side of the world.
You know what? Because Jinh, you fought in Australia, is that right?
No, Montana.
Austria. Okay.
Montana fought in Australia, and I had
Okay.
just fought. Douglas was coaching, and then so I just flew down there to join in for the.
Brought her in for fight week, and then whenever the fight was over, we had rented a camper van and went for a week down the Great Ocean Road.
Oh, we got to hear. Please help me to find some pictures because I think the visualization really helps.
I'll tag you
explain
in
the
some.
elements.
Yeah, I'll tag you in them.
Oh man, that's so awesome, guys. And so we're gonna wrap this up. I know you guys have things going on today. 2 things that I wanted to end this with was first, thank you. Thank you guys for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, bro. We enjoyed it. Always love talking to you, bro.
Oh man, we go on and on. I know you have, and it's always business when we do meet up. I know. So this is really a pleasure. And to rock this out, the world champion.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna take a screenshot. I'm gonna take a screenshot real quick. Hold that up.
There you go, man. Go for it.
See if I can get you in here, Jen. Boom, got it.
And that's, for people that are wanting to know the black and gold, that is when Jinh was an atomweight for Invicta and won this world championship title, man. We're going to post that up next time. I think I have that picture of you holding the belt. The last two things I want to talk to you, some fun, if you will. Then we've had I think we've had a great time up to this point was, Jinh, you not only show up to weigh-ins ready to go, ready to knock somebody's block off. We know that. But you show up in a fashion that Lady Deathstrike, for one, Wonder Woman, Chun-Li, what else was there?
Kill Bill.
Kill Bill.
She's done Lara Croft from Tomb Raider.
Lara Croft.
Yeah.
Who is your personal favorite, Jinh? And Doug, who is your personal favorite that she has dressed in cosplay for?
I think the Wonder Woman one was probably the best one. Like that one, when I first started, I was kind of just like, buying a costume off of Amazon. But then it's like the Wonder Woman, I really kind of, took it seriously and put a lot of effort into the costume, like spent a decent amount of money, like getting a good, like handmade costume. So that one for sure was probably the best one.
Okay.
My favorite is her first one is Chun-Li, because she looks like Chun-Li and she's got the fighting spirit, and like that was my favorite one. However, the Lara Croft, the Tomb Raider one, was fantastic because of the story behind it. Yeah. So she got plastic guns that were orange, right? She spray painted them black so they look real. Okay. This fight was held at the Tropicana in Las Vegas. So during weigh-ins, Jinh comes out, and the whole media's there, and there's a couple hundred people in attendance, and she walks up and does her pose and pulls out her double guns, and they look like real guns. And the president of Invicta looked at Jinh. She was like, "No, like, do not be pointing out guns into."
I've been cutting weight. I'm not really thinking about this. I'm just costume. So yeah, she was like, "Put those away."
Yep.
Well, and it's crazy because not only if you put the guns away, you're still dangerous.
Because she still got them guns, baby. Can't put those away.
All right, guys. Last question I have for you, and this is one that I always ask, the guests on the podcast, and here is, for a made-for-TV movie, who would portray the two of you? What actor?
Edward Norton would play me.
Who?
Edward Norton.
Oh, okay. I like that. I like that. Jinh?
Who's the girl? Everybody's like, oh,
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember.
What movie was this person in?
Is it Olivia?
Olivia Wilde.
Oh,
Olivia
Wilde.
She was in the, would play Jinh.
Olivia Wilde. I could totally see that.
Yep.
I get that all the time. So maybe she'd play it.
All right. So on that note, I thank you guys so much. Oh, Jinh. So one of the lab techs at my job, I told him I was doing this interview, and he goes, he's Korean. And he goes, oh, you need to say her name. And I'm like, man, let's just, so tell me if this is correct. Yoo Jin Hee.
Yeah. Yoo Jin Hee.
I got it right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yoo Jin Hee.
Yeah.
All right. We're 1 for 1. All right, guys. Well, hey, listen, Doug, continue with the blends. I want to hear more about that the next time we talk.
Yeah.
Jinh, congratulations. The master's degree, working full time. You're multi-fight deal with UFC. The two of you are just like the it couple for counseling to be real. And I thank you guys for that. Shalee's back here right now, just smiling ear to ear.
Tell her you said hello.
You can't see her. All right, guys. Well, this is the Fries, and this is going to be on Come On In with Antonio Perkins. Like, subscribe, comment, and we're so glad we have more to talk about on part 2, and we'll get back to you guys later.
Heck yeah, looking forward to it, Antonio. Good talking to you, bro.
Be blessed.
Yeah, see you, man.
You got it.